On a chilly October night in Chicago, Ethan Miller walked the same route he always did after his late shift at the diner. He wasn't expecting anything unusual. The streets were quiet, the air heavy, and the glow of the street lamps made the sidewalk look endless. But then he noticed it. A phone, lying face down near the curb, screen faintly lit as if it had been waiting for someone. He bent down, picked it up, and before he could even wipe off the dirt, the phone buzzed in his hand. A single message appeared on the lock screen, glowing bright against the darkness. 3 words, simple but paralyzing. "I see you." Ethan froze, his heart pounding. Whoever this belonged to wasn't just missing a phone. They were watching him, right then, in that moment. Before we dive deeper, let us know in the comments where you're watching from. We'd love to hear from you. And don't forget to hit that subscribe button so you never miss any of our upcoming videos. Ethan stood there on the sidewalk, gripping the phone so tight his knuckles turned white. He could hear his own breath, quick and shallow. For a moment, he thought about tossing it back to the ground and walking away, pretending he had never seen it. But something about the message gnawed at him. He glanced over his shoulder. Empty street, no movement, no cars passing. Whoever sent that message wasn't visible, yet somehow knew exactly what he was doing. He slid the phone into his pocket and walked home faster than usual, every step echoing louder than it should. When he got inside, his girlfriend, Sarah, was waiting. She noticed the phone immediately. "Where did you get that?" she asked. Ethan explained, trying to sound casual, but Sarah frowned. "Don't mess with this, Ethan. It's not yours. Just turn it in." He nodded, but deep down, he wasn't ready to let it go. Later that night, when Ethan placed the phone on the coffee table, another buzz cut through the silence. He flinched, staring at the screen. The lock screen lit up, displaying yet another message. This one was worse. "You just looked around. Don't bother." Ethan froze. His stomach sank. He hadn't told anyone he'd looked around outside. Nobody had been there. Yet, whoever was behind these messages knew exactly what he was doing. He saw the look on his face and whispered nervously, "What does it say?" Ethan didn't answer. He just stared at the phone, his pulse hammering in his ears. Another vibration shook the device. This time, the message was longer. "Keep the phone, Ethan. You were meant to find it." His lips went dry. That was the moment he realized this wasn't random. Someone had planned it, and somehow they knew exactly who he was. He turned to Sarah and whispered, "This isn't random. They know me." The hours ticked by, but Ethan couldn't sleep. He sat in the dim glow of the living room, the phone resting in front of him like a ticking time bomb. Sarah stayed awake too, pacing nervously. "Just turn it in tomorrow," she repeated, but Ethan shook his head. He couldn't let it go. Something about it felt like it was meant for him, like a trap that had already closed around him. Finally, curiosity broke his restraint. He tried to unlock the phone, but it demanded a passcode. Still, notifications kept appearing. One of them was a photo. His heart stopped. It was blurry, but clear enough. Ethan, standing at the diner counter where he worked. The photo was taken the day before. He dropped the phone, his mind racing. How could pictures of him be inside a device he had just found on the street? By morning, Sarah insisted they take the phone to the police. Reluctantly, Ethan agreed. At the station, they met Detective Ramirez, a seasoned officer with a skeptical glare. Ethan explained everything: the messages, the photos, the strange timing. Ramirez listened, but remained unimpressed. "Most likely a prank," he muttered. Still, he sealed the phone in an evidence bag. But just as Ramirez walked out of the room, the bag vibrated. The phone buzzed violently, demanding attention. Ramirez stopped, frowned, and checked it. Against protocol, he unsealed the bag and read the latest text aloud. Ethan's blood went cold. The message didn't just mention Ramirez by name. It gave him an order. "Tell Ramirez to check the basement." Silence fell. Ethan's eyes darted to Sarah. Ramirez stared at them, suspicion growing, but there was no denying it. The phone wasn't finished. It was leading them somewhere. That night, Ethan and Sarah returned home. They didn't want to, but the weight of the message pressed on them. Ramirez, though still doubtful, agreed to check the basement himself. The three of them descended into the darkness, the old wooden steps creaking under their feet. At first, it looked ordinary: boxes stacked against the wall, old furniture covered in sheets. Nothing unusual. Ramirez shook his head, ready to dismiss it. But Ethan's eyes caught something. Near the far corner, etched faintly into the concrete floor, were deep scratch marks. Long, jagged lines that suggested something heavy had been dragged across the basement recently. Ethan crouched, running his hand over the grooves. They were fresh. He swallowed hard, his voice cracking. "Someone's been down here." Ramirez's skeptical look faltered for the first time. And then, as if on cue, the phone buzzed again in Ethan's pocket. The message appeared: "You're getting closer." Detective Ramirez ordered Ethan and Sarah to stay upstairs while he made calls to pull background on the phone. The weight was unbearable. Every tick of the wall clock in Ethan's living room felt like a countdown to something neither of them wanted to face. When Ramirez finally returned, his face was different, less skeptical, more unsettled. He had traced the phone's SIM card. It was registered to the name Daniel Collins. Sarah gasped, the blood draining from her face. She whispered, "That's my brother." Ethan turned sharply toward her. Sarah's brother had vanished nearly 5 years, cutting off all contact. Nobody knew what happened to him. Sarah had long assumed he was dead, but if the phone belonged to him, then why was Ethan the one being targeted? Before he could ask, the phone buzzed again. The new message was short, precise, and deeply unsettling. "Don't trust Sarah." The words sliced through Ethan like a knife. He looked at Sarah, confusion and suspicion swirling. Sarah's eyes filled with tears. "Ethan, I swear I have nothing to do with this," she pleaded. But doubt had already planted itself deep in his mind. Ramirez stayed calm, but his voice was stern. "Until we know more, we treat every lead seriously." Ethan paced the room, clutching his head, his thoughts racing. Why would Daniel single out Sarah? Why would a brother she hadn't seen in years accuse her through a hidden phone? Another buzz cut through the silence. This time, it wasn't a warning. It was a location. A simple text with Ethan's old childhood address. Ethan froze. He hadn't lived there in over 15 years. How could Daniel even know about it? More importantly, why would he want Ethan to go back there now? The mystery grew darker with every vibration. Detective Ramirez wasn't convinced, but Ethan felt pulled by something stronger than fear. Against Sarah's protests, he insisted on going. Ramirez agreed to accompany him, but even the detective's steady demeanor was cracking. When they arrived at the Childhood home,
A small, weathered house, now abandoned. Its broken windows and peeling paint looked like the perfect stage for whatever truth Daniel wanted them to find. They stepped inside cautiously. Dust filled the air, and each floorboard groaned like a warning. Ramirez searched for signs of forced entry. Sarah clung to Ethan's arm, trembling. In one corner of the living room, a box sat on the floor, clean, untouched by dust. Ethan approached slowly, heart pounding. He opened it, expecting answers. Inside were dozens of photographs of him, Sarah, and even Ramirez, some taken days ago. Ethan's knees went weak. Whoever Daniel was now, he wasn't missing. He was watching.
Ethan couldn't stop staring at the photographs. They weren't just random snapshots. They were intimate, impossibly detailed. One showed Sarah walking out of the grocery store 2 nights earlier. Another showed Detective Ramirez arriving at the station that very morning. Ethan's heart pounded as his fingers flipped through image after image, each one proving the same impossible truth. Whoever controlled the phone wasn't just watching them, they were inside their lives. Ramirez wetted a photo closer to the dim light and whispered, "These were taken within the last 48 hours. Sarah clutched Ethan's hand, her voice trembling. "This isn't Daniel. It can't be. My brother wouldn't do this." But before Ethan could respond, the phone vibrated again, lying silently on the dusty floor beside the box. A new message appeared. This one made Ethan's skin crawl. "You brought them here, Ethan. Now they know." Ramirez barked orders, demanding that both Ethan and Sarah stay put while he called for backup. But his radio crackled with static and his phone had no signal. Ethan's own phone was dead. The only device working in that house was the black phone, the same one they should never have picked up. Ethan picked it up again, hands shaking, and the screen flickered to life. It wasn't a message this time. It was a live video stream, grainy, distorted, but unmistakable. The camera was aimed at a bedroom. Sarah gasped. She recognized the bedspread immediately. It was theirs, but the figure lying motionless in the bed wasn't her. It was another woman who looked almost identical to her, breathing shallowly as if she were drugged or asleep. Ethan dropped the phone, his stomach twisting. "Sarah," he whispered, unable to stop shaking. What the hell are we looking at?" The phone buzzed again, forcing Ethan to pick it up. The words on the screen froze him in place. "She's not the only one." Ramirez yanked the device out of his hand, demanding answers, but before he could react, the GPS function activated. A glowing dot pulsed on the map, leading them out of the house and several miles away to the edge of town. The location was familiar to Ramirez, an old motel that had been shut down years ago after a string of violent incidents. Ethan's pulse quickened as Ramirez debated whether to follow the lead, but the phone buzzed again, louder, longer, as if it were screaming at them. "If you don't come now, you'll never know the truth." Ethan felt his legs go weak. Every breadcrumb, every chilling message had led to this. The motel wasn't just a destination, it was a trap, waiting wide open for them. The ride to the abandoned motel was suffocating. Ramirez kept his hand near his holster. Sarah sat frozen, and Ethan couldn't stop staring at the glowing GPS dot on the black phone. When they finally pulled up, the motel loomed like a ghost, its broken neon sign flickering weakly against the night sky. Room 6, the one the phone directed them to, had its door slightly ajar, swaying with each gust of wind. Inside, the air smelled of mildew and dust, but one thing stood out immediately. The walls. They were plastered with photographs, newspaper clippings, and handwritten notes, all of it centered around Ethan. A timeline of his life, from childhood to that very week. Sarah's voice cracked as she whispered, This is impossible." Ramirez's face hardened. The phone buzzed again in Ethan's pocket. He pulled it out and read the message, "Welcome back, Ethan. We've been waiting for you." On a table in the middle of the room sat a laptop. Its screen was already open to a video file titled Confession. Ethan clicked it, hands trembling. The screen filled with the face of Daniel Collins, alive, older, but very much real. His voice was calm, almost soothing. "Ethan," Daniel began, "if you're seeing this, then it means you finally found me, and it means they finally told you the truth." Ethan's breath caught in his throat. Daniel leaned closer to the camera, his eyes unblinking. "You're not who you think you are. You never have been." Sarah shook her head furiously. "No, that's not true. He's lying." But Ramirez leaned in, listening. Daniel continued. "The accident you were told about when you were a child, that wasn't an accident. It was the beginning. Ethan, you weren't supposed to survive." Ethan's heart slammed in his chest. What was Daniel implying? The video crackled as Daniel whispered the final words. "You were made to replace me, Ethan. They built you. I was supposed to disappear, but you became their shadow. And now, they want you back." The laptop screen went black. Silence swallowed the room. Ethan staggered backward, his mind unraveling. Sarah sobbed, begging him not to believe it. But Ramirez stood rigid, trying to process the impossible. Suddenly, the black phone buzzed one last time. Ethan lifted it with shaking hands. The screen lit up with the final message. "This is not the end. This is the beginning." And then, the phone powered down on its own. Ethan dropped to his knees, staring blankly. Was he really who he thought he was? Or had his entire life been constructed? For the first time, even Ramirez had no answers.